And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho, and lots of stuff to cover today. Let's blast through it. First, looking at the colorized magnetogram here in the final few hours of summer. It's time for a sunspot to be on the list, and I could barely see umbra as I did show prep. You can see up here in the northeast, this plage rising here had umbra about a half an hour ago, and by the end of the video we'll see if it still does. Let's take a quick look at the fields here on HelioViewer, and there's the field situation. Only one small umbra visible when I did show prep. We'll get to it by the end, and let's do some close-ups. Fantastic imagery here in 304 angstroms. We put the Earth scale on there. And for you new viewers, keep in mind the Earth is not located there. That would be an unfortunate situation. Great examples of this plasma rain here in ionized helium spectra. We've seen a reduction in the X-ray flux, so this thing may be degrading. But I definitely saw a dark spot when I did show prep. Here's the same exact area in 94 angstroms. This is part of the ionized emission spectra of one of the ionized states of iron. 94 angstroms. Gives you a little bit of extra insight there as different chemical ionization states behave differently in the corona, chromosphere, etc. So a great view there of that active region. And let's go to the SDO zone site here. Actually, it's still HelioViewer. There you go. All right, so that's 171 angstroms. Probably the most spectacular wavelength for such a phenomenon. And you can see some magnetic fields doing a serious job suspending all of that plasma out there in the corona, and indeed down to the chromosphere. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at 71, and let me go out on a limb and say that you're going to see the radial flux go up, as that is a significant region. It's big enough to raise the radial flux pretty much on its own. And here's the 3-year chart of the radial flux. The best thing besides sunspot number, or the most similar piece of data to sunspot number, it's quite directly proportional, the 10.7 centimeter radial flux. The KP index is up to 3 here, and this may actually get into geomagnetic unrest conditions, as at the equinoxes the Earth is most susceptible to geomagnetic storms and so on. We may see some aurora sparked as the solar wind speed looks like it's in a state of going up. We've seen a reduction in the X-ray flux. That's an indication that perhaps that active region is actually losing its coherence. And we don't see any major proton strikes. Here's that real-time solar wind. And we may have only seen this small uptick in the velocity. But I would expect to see this go higher, maybe to 400 kilometers per second. Current solar wind velocity, 329 kilometers a second. Solar wind density, around 6 protons, having reached a peak of around 21 protons. So yeah, I would be very surprised to not see this rise maybe to 430 kilometers a second today. That is the signature of a coronal hole high-speed wind stream. So here's what's going on in the magnetosphere, and we do see a little bit of pressure there associated with that higher solar wind velocity. Some decently strong magnetism too. We saw some wild swings in the magnetometer. We'll get to it by the end of the video. This 4 hours of data provided by University of Michigan. It's the space weather modeling framework here in the final hours of summer. Now, one of the reasons that we look at the geospace is to look at geomagnetic jerks, and that guy's a defensive end. Have you noticed that guy's a bit defensive? What's up with that? Uptight much? Don't be a geomagnetic jerk. And here are your geomagnetic jerks, looking at ground magnetic perturbations. Dear viewer, please don't be a geomagnetic jerk, like some people on YouTube. Anyway, great view here of a polar excursion happening. We see two North Poles, one over Siberia, one over Canada. And the South Pole has crept into the Indian Ocean south of Australia. Let's let it play through a second time here. As we actually see some induction here, there may be some auroras sparked. We're not going to cover auroras on today's daily space weather. It's pretty much just for sightseers, unless perhaps you don't understand the physics. Just bear with it a minute, let it play through. And keep in mind this is delta B, otherwise known as changes in the Earth's B field, and the B field is the field that goes through the magnet. Sort of the overall field situation. And a great view of the locations of the poles in today's video. Power outages have been simmering down a little bit. That's a good thing. And here's those wild magnetometer swings we were talking about. You saw it got all the way up to almost 130 nanotesla there, and then precipitously dropped. Anyway, there's the 3-day chart of the GOES magnetometer. Here's the Gong 2 data. This is derived from 51 ground-based magnetometers, the National Sunspot Observatory, that is, as well as magnetometers on stereo A, which is located out here at Lagrange point 5, and stereo B, located here at Lagrange point 4. If you're wondering where the other Lagrange points are, this is Lagrange 1, this is Lagrange 2, this is Lagrange 3, and that's 4, and that's 5. Don't be surprised to see us suddenly snap into the South Pole current sheet. Don't be surprised to see this red current sheet polarity pop through here. Although there is a bunch of plasma suspended. You can see right in this region here, you can see a bunch of plasma blocking the detection of the potential field force lines. And that's something to keep an eye on, and it's made up of ions. By the way, for something to be considered plasma in space, it only needs to be about 20% ionized due to the diffuse environment of space. And we haven't seen this B field pulled up in this direction yet. Another indication that perhaps that active region is not as strong as it appeared. A little bit of distortion in the B field there. Surprisingly not exposing the South Pole current sheet. And here's the coronal hole potential magnetic field force line plot. And you can see the South Pole largely turned into closed potential field force lines there. Open field force lines showed in black, closed field force lines showed in pink, and coronal hole field force lines shown in purple. And welcome to another edition of the Smash Lights. And welcome to the Smash News Network, by the way, the least busted name in news. Please consider visiting the links below the video and so on to help support our efforts to provide real information about some unreal nonsense and some actual sense. Breaking news from SNN. Sunspot appears in the shape of Joe Biden, causing his fundraising to increase. Let's talk about nominations to the Supreme Court of the U.S. Well, let's just go down the list here. I've taken the liberty of sorting the list of nominees by number of days vacant. Now you notice that column on the right there. Allow me to vanish. You see that ND? That means number of days it took to confirm the pick. So you can see William Patterson, John Spencer, Sam Friedman Miller, Salmon Chase, Edwin Stanton, Edward D. White, another Edward D. White, William Howard Taft. They all had 0 days to get confirmed. And then you can see a whole list of Supreme Court justices that took 1 day to confirm. And then a whole list that took 2 days to confirm. See what I'm saying here, folks? Here's a whole list of 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And guess what? In all of those situations, the president probably had a Senate majority party associated with his party. So yeah, if you've got a Senate that's friendly to your pick, you can confirm a Supreme Court justice pick in 0 days. So I know everybody has a boner about Supreme Court justices. Allow me to reappear and move on to some more stuff, because there's lots of stupidity out there. And here's some more stupidity. Coronavirus-induced CO2 emission reductions are not yet detectable in the atmosphere. Why? Well, lots of reasons. And the main reason is because mankind does not know its own input to CO2. Yeah, it's true, folks. It's true. We'd like to believe in our arrogance that we know how much CO2 mankind contributes to the atmosphere, but we really don't, in that we don't know how much CO2 volcanoes and the ocean contribute to atmospheric CO2. By the way, atmospheric CO2 has nothing to do with the temperature, the climate of the planet, and indeed the climate of the planet has nothing to do with the measurement of the atmosphere. A ridiculous notion. Have you ever gone to the doctor and had the doctor check your temperature by making you blow into a breathalyzer? What's that? No. That's because the latency of heat in your body, like the latency of heat in the earth, lies in the water, which is why you need a rectal thermometer and why the earth needs buoys sensing the temperature deep in the Indian Ocean, because only about 1% of Earth's heat latency lies in the atmosphere to begin with. This is some of the most basic physics here. And apparently, many climatologists, or I guess you could say wannabe climatologists, aren't aware of this. I mean, it took me about 5 seconds to show one person a graph, and she went, "Oh, carbon dioxide's not correlated with temperature. Just look up 530 million years of climate change, a graph that will correlate carbon dioxide with temperature," and weed out stupid people that can't look at simple data on a graph and understand it. Let's talk about stupidity. Why is it that stupid people produce so many children and smart people produce less? It's because of R versus K selection theory. Now, mosquitoes are a great example of an R-selected species. They don't have to be skilled or talented or trained. All they do is produce a lot of offspring, and they can barely fly, half of the mosquitoes out there. Their strategy is to spam the world with offspring, which, for those of us who are intelligent, we consider this a very stupid idea. K-selected species display traits associated with living at densities close to carrying capacity, and that's typically why smart people have less kids than stupid people. Sorry, folks, it's just true. If you don't know about R selection versus K selection, I don't know how it's a theory. It seems like scientific fact to me. Dandelions are also another example of an R-selected species. K-selected species include things like whales, and under optimal circumstances, humans. Do you follow us on social media? We're all over the social media. Check us out on Instagram. It's instagram.com/smashamash. We're also on Gab. We're also on Minds, minds.com/smashamash. And indeed on Facebook, and we try to put some exclusive content in all those situations. Let's unpin this post, and we'll talk about it later. So yeah, check us out on other social media. All the links are at smashamash.org right there. We're having problems with our affiliate link, and it's because of Amazon. So check out these stores and the Smash forum at smashamash.org, which will redirect you to smashamash.com. And check it out, we've got new designs here, and our new designs will typically feature color-specific designs. So we've got certain color schemes associated with certain designs. And so the newest one is the All Things Matter shirt. And we've got this in shirts, girl shirts, and sweatshirts. This one only comes in black. If you'd like it in a different color, it's also available in blue or red, and they're all color-matched palettes. So the whole design's different, and that's why we only offer them in single colors. Perhaps get yourself a blue one. Are you a Democrat? Do you want a blue shirt that says All Things Matter? Well, it's true, folks. If you weren't aware, all things matter. We've also included smashamash.org on there. Here are the designs in their full glory. And if you're wondering what we're looking at here, That's actually Radio Galaxy Cygnus A. If you enjoy the content, please press like and subscribe on YouTube. And don't forget to share on your social media. Tell your friends, foes, science noobs, and science pros. The video can't continue until you press like and subscribe. We'll just have to wait here while streaming live for you to get off your lazy keister and press those buttons. Don't forget to press a notification bell while you're doing so as well. You may actually see when we put out content, although I wouldn't bet on it. YouTube.com/smAsho. Also check out our playlists. We've added one over the weekend on Sunday, talking to Eugene Bagashov about terms defined cosmology. We're also on BitChute. There is exclusive content there. BitChute.com/smAsho. And we greatly enjoy streaming live to Twitch, which is why we do it. The platform is fantastic. And here at the Smash News Network, we believe in the concept of no malarkey. What about you? Please leave us a comment and let us know. And we're going to do a cosmology segment just tied right into the Smash Lights. It'll appear on the Smash Lights playlist as well as the cosmology segment playlist. It's only 4 hours and 36 minutes until fall, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, spring. Enjoy the last bits of your summer or winter. Let us know what your plans are for the next season. And let's go down the rabbit hole of cosmology, as it's sort of important, since lots of aspects of science are constantly being rewritten, thank goodness. Were you aware that this comet, the comet Chury, has a magnetosphere? Yeah. Now this is a UV image, and you see all these glowing areas up here? That's an aurora from the comet, indicating that it has a magnetosphere. So isn't that interesting? Now some of us could have forecasted this. Also, isn't it interesting the way these things seem to be dipole shaped? They've got this central mass, and they've got this hourglass shape to them. Many objects seem to take up that same shape, and nobody's really sure as to why that's a thing. So in any case, here's a little animation of what would be going on. Here's an electron in the solar wind, and it's going to get accelerated as it leaves the corona, and then it's going to release light, UV light, as it breaks down water molecules and generates the aurora. So, pretty interesting there. Comet Chury has aurora, and indeed, a magnetosphere. If you haven't read about our mission, it's available at smashomash.com/forum/mission. Go have yourself a read. And next we're going to talk about, can anybody guess? Anybody? It's Venus, which is all over the news lately. Parker Solar Probe has just returned some interesting data. Now, Venus has a light side and a dark side, which gives it a sweet spot. So, as Venus orbits, it's got a very hot spot, a very hot side, and a very cold side. And on the hot side, there's this day-night terminator that takes almost an entire Venusian year to complete. So we're getting some insights into the atmosphere and so on here. If you want to read about that, that's a phys.org article in the Astronomy and Space section. The Parker Solar Probe and the Akatsuki Earthbound observers. And an interesting place. There are extremophiles, perhaps, in the atmosphere of Venus, as it's always got a part of the atmosphere that's probably around room temperature, in that it's got this ring around it. And Venus has phases. So that's why it has phases. It doesn't rotate the same way the Earth does. It rotates very, very slowly in terms of its Venusian year. Again, that article's on phys.org. Let's talk about extremophiles. Why is it that some organisms are extremely radio resistant? How come some organisms, bacteria, are extremely resistant to radiation and others aren't? Well, we can take something like E. coli or salmonella and put it in a lab and expose it to radiation and create a radio-resistant population. But why were certain organisms turning out to be extremely radio-resistant to begin with without any intervention by mankind, such as Deinococcus radiatorans? Deinococcus radiatorans is able to survive radiation 1,000 times greater than those dosages fatal to humans. So that's an interesting portion of, I guess you could say, cosmological biology, cosmic biology, perhaps at play here. Perhaps those organisms were exposed a long, long time ago to a whole lot of radiation. Another article here from the IRIS mission, the first ever clear images of nanojets. And I was pretty sure I just showed you some at the beginning of the video. But here's another SciTech Daily article about nanojets. I find it interesting. It's got some great graphics on it. And yeah, here's a close animation of it. Pretty good stuff. And they zoom way in, and there's what's going on. That particular prominence, I'm not exactly sure when that was. April 3rd, 2014, there was that prominence way up in the north. So more attempts to understand why the corona is so much hotter than the surface. We won't get into it today. We don't want the video to be too long. It's the daily space weather after all, with these other things tied in. Today's featured object is the Sculptor galaxy, otherwise known as NGC 253, or Caldwell 65, or the silver coin, or the silver dollar galaxy. Here it is on Sinbad. And what's the point? The point is carbon monoxide emission spectra. There's the same galaxy. Check it out. There's Sculptor. And here it is in carbon dioxide emission spectra. So very interesting here. Carbon monoxide is extremely important because it emits radiation. And so this is a way for us to be able to see what's going on in interstellar cloud areas. Carbon monoxide appears in lots and lots of spots in the universe. This gives us great insight into the thickness and movement of giant clouds. Here's another galaxy that we featured earlier, a couple days ago, M51. And there's the carbon monoxide profile of M51, the pinwheel galaxy. So emission and absorption spectra are super important in cosmology. And again, this gives us insight into the movements and density of these interstellar clouds. Great image here, courtesy of ESO, NAOJ, and Eric Rosolowski. Well done. What a beautiful image of carbon monoxide. And let's talk about COVID. Now, you may be scared and spooked of COVID, or you may think COVID is a cheap Chinese virus made in China. You may have purchased a UV wand or something because you may be so scared and spooked that you just want to, oh no, oh, it's so scary and spooky. It's about as scary and spooky as the common cold. And let's talk about COVIDiots. Our subscribe stars aren't COVIDiots. Please consider supporting us over there, perhaps at subscribestar.com/smashamash or at patreon.com/smashamash, the true source of funding for our content. Thanks to our patrons. Please consider becoming a patron. There are 9 tiers over there for your convenience. And we've been putting audio files for the higher contributors. The Spirit tier, which is $5 a month on up, has been getting some audio stuff, things like ringtones. Patreon.com/smashamash, where you can help us to eradicate stupidity, nonsense, lies, and complete illogic. Let's talk about nonsense, lies, and illogic. The CDC removes guidance saying coronavirus spreads through the air. Well, isn't that surprising? Well, gee, it seems like the science isn't settled on anything, is it? Oh, thanks, CDC. Well done. You're really worth all the money that taxpayers are wasting on your nonsense. Hey, federal government, get out of stuff that you're not constitutionally permitted to do. Shut your face and stop telling people to put masks on and lock down when they're healthy. Putting on a mask and being locked down and not being able to go in public while you're not sick is COVIDiocy of the highest order, and it's really been starting to piss me off. Let's talk about the peak COVIDiocy in Wisconsin. One of the most COVIDiotic things I've seen. Wisconsin government agency mandates face mask use for virtual Zoom meetings. Now what we're doing here is we're showing you our COVIDiots section in smashamash.com/forum. So check that out. It's in the general science forum because we put up things like psychology stuff. Talk about some COVIDiots. There's a couple of COVIDiots. How about pure corruption and COVIDiocy? Biden-Harris 2020. Complete COVIDiots. So yeah, look at this COVIDiot. Robert Redfield. What a moron. He did the math, and it turns out the math is 8 == capital D. Idiot. A complete COVIDiot right there, paid for by your tax dollars. CDC Director Robert Redfield, who should resign and live out his life toiling in anonymity because he is a full-fledged museum-grade COVIDiot. Speaking of COVIDiots, here's another one who also happens to be a complete a-hole. Dwarf imbecile, Dr. Fauci, who has a massive financial interest in vaccines. If you'd like to visit our links, please check out smashamash.org. I won't rage about it. I'll be nice and happy and unenraged if you go and visit smashomash.org and visit our links. Perhaps you'd like to purchase yourself a shirt or something like that. Or perhaps you'd like to go to the forum. Again, we've updated the smAsho store with All Things Matter. Yes, All Things Matter. Perhaps you'd like a red hoodie. So you can go and tell your friends and foes that all things matter. A basic fact of reality. Just like our cosmology forum at smashomash.com/forum. And here ends another episode of the Smash Lights, where I rage a little and talk about anything that I want. And then I vanish and move on to more stuff. By the way, the electron flux is pretty flat right now. There's the 1-year graph of the relativistic electrons. Charging hazards are minimal, and they're over places like Mexico and Central America. The forecast for relativistic electrons leaves them flat as well, and here you can see the past 3 days. I would be expecting this to remain quite flat or cratered at the very bottom of the line there for the next 24 hours due to the incoming coronal hole wind stream. Here's a visualization of the total electron content forecast all the way out to the thermosphere. We see some little anomalous little like pockets here, some little oddities happening, nothing to write home about. This gives you an idea of GPS errors. They usually happen around the equator at noon. Next, looking at just the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is a little anomalous here. It's doing some quick charge up, charge down sort of things, just behind where the sun's located. Latest image is at 9 o'clock Universal Time. It's around 9 o'clock Universal Time. Do you know what your ionosphere is doing? Hey, thanks for leaving a comment. Smash staff, we heart you too. Next, looking at planetstoday.com, theplanetstoday.com that is. That's what I use for my planet charts. I like the visualization. I like to be able to advance it. Here's where things are now. There's where things will be in a week. Mercury, Venus, and Earth still forming a triangle, and everybody knows shapes in space are scary because reasons. Next, looking at in-the-sky.org, as I'm always interested in what's going on above my head. Hey, look, it's Betelgeuse. Oh, what, I had the wrong end there. There's Betelgeuse. If you're up before dawn, you may see Venus. It's the third brightest object in the sky. It's 5:05. Do you know where your Deneb is? Do you know where your cosmic ray sources are? So we see a lull in earthquakes. Let's go over the past 24 hours. We don't see very many. We do see a deep quake in western South America. The largest of the past 24 was this 5.8 in the central East Pacific. There's that deep quake at Chile. It's only a 4.1 magnitude, but it's at 108 kilometers depth. So it's a lull in earthquakes. I would say if you're in an earthquake-prone zone over the next 48 hours, please have your plan in place. That deep quake at the Band AC is at a 4.9 magnitude and 173.9 kilometers. And just to give you an idea, if you're in areas like these areas, please have an earthquake plan, maybe a bug-out bag. Maybe know which buildings will fall if you try to evacuate yours. As we're seeing an earthquake lull in 7, 8, and 9 magnitude quakes. And those typically end in, guess what? Guess what? Earthquakes. Let's look at volcanoes. We see an uptick in volcanoes over the past couple of days here. Some volcanoes returning back to the list here, such as Abico, flight level 12,000, Tocono, exploding. Flight level 070, it's a 7,000 foot ash plume. Pavlov, back on the list. Seismic activity characterized by continuous tremor, although no eruptive activities or summit have been observed yet. Popocatépetl has dispersed its ash, no longer detecting ash there at Popocatépetl. Pacaya back on the list, exploding with an effusive eruption, as well as lava flows on the northeast flank. Don't be surprised if you see those continue again. Sangay exploding. Flight level 220, 22,000 feet. Revenador, effusive explosive eruption there as well as lava flows there. And Sabancaya also exploding. Flight level 240, 24,000 foot ash plume is not something that you should pole vault. It could become unhealthy. And we need the views on YouTube, so yeah, don't pole vault the caldera. Here's your weather.gov map. Let's just refresh it to make sure it's brand new. And we've got frost all over the central Appalachians here. Frost advisories, yeah. And Texas is going to get drenched. Here is a very, very pregnant AccuWeather forecaster. She is as big as a house. Drop those triplets or whatever you've got going there. We'll be here when you get back from maternity leave, for goodness sakes. Quite a wardrobe on her, too. So here's the Tropical Tidbits total precipitation forecast. And check it out, Washington is forecasted to get 20 inches of rain here by next Tuesday, September 29th. So that's a 1 week forecast. We're still going to see heavy rain here in places like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, and Texas. There you can see through Tuesday of next week, forecasting about 20 inches of rain there. Could be bad times for northwestern Washington. Let's look at the jet streams. Here are the jets. Here's actually me checking the life of the stream. Here are the jets of the eastern world. Extreme meridional jet stream flow at its finest. Big kinks in the jet stream, as well as a backward jet stream over the Indian Ocean, blowing east to west. Here are the jets of the western world. And we still see a tripled up jet stream over North America. Extreme meridional patterns here. And you can see that significant low pressure now moving a little bit. Well, I don't know where it's moving because this isn't animated. Anyway, there's your jets of the western world. Shout out to our European and African viewers. Here are your water vapor maps. Shout out to our Far Eastern viewers and our viewers from UNDA. Here is your water vapor scenario. Here's the water vapor scenario for the Americas. And this is part of the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite. It's super fantastic. It's a delight, almost like our viewers. And by the way, thanks greatly to our viewers who've purchased shirts at the Teespring stores. Please leave us comments with photographs of you wearing the products. Become our latest models for our clothing. Here's where things are in terms of pressure cells. And we'll let this advance about 1 day into the GFS forecast. Windy.com, they've got a great mobile app as well. Perhaps check that out. And we've got this former hurricane moving up toward Nova Scotia. Here's where we anticipate things to be via the GFS forecast by 12 noon tomorrow. Actually, there's 1 o'clock tomorrow, 1 p.m. There you go, 1 p.m. on the first full day of autumn. Next, looking at lightningmaps.org. And you see these straight lines. That's got equinox written all over it. It's practically an equal symbol. We've got some pretty significant lightning here. Some lightning striking Italy. Lightningmaps.org next time you hear thunder. Impress your friends and frighten your foes by forecasting thunder, yes. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map as insult to injury gets added to the Gulf Coast, and it continues to rain and rain and rain. Hope everybody's doing well down there. Leave us a comment. If you're located in the Gulf Coast, let us know what your situation is. Here's what's going on in the cloud layer. Even though it's dark, we can still see it using the NASA GOES shortwave radiation map. Yeah, water emits radiation too, just like carbon monoxide. And let's go to the water vapor. We see some significant turbulence down there in southeastern Texas. Let's zoom in on that zone of varying pressure. And you can see the dry air and the moist air having a little battle down there. And if you're in any of these rainy regions, that should give you some idea of where these systems will move. And let's take a look at what's going on over my head. And for you new viewers out there who don't know where we're located, SMASH staff and I are located right there in Lehigh Valley, eastern Pennsylvania. And it looks like we're getting injected with cold air still. Some cold air coming from the Lake Huron region, coming all the way down into Lehigh Valley area, making for some cold nights in the 30s. And I saw frost yesterday, the last day of summer. Hey, SMASH team. Thanks for tuning in. Again, we greatly appreciate you visiting our links. Fantastic. Keep up the good work. Head to smAsho.org. Visit our social media. Get involved. Tell your friends and foes, science noobs and science pros. And thanks for flying, American Smashways. We would remind you to please keep your head and arms inside the SMASH plane at all times, since we've got bonus features. We wouldn't want you to miss them. And here they are, I think. And we're going to show you the 131 angstroms 48-hour SDO video. We're going to show you the intensitygram. And you could probably see umbra there for a quick moment. Here's the colorized magnetogram showing that active region, which I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's a sunspot. Here's the latest intensitygram. And now we no longer see umbrae. That might be one right there. Not fully sure. It's still too close to tell. And oftentimes we see a large plage leading a sunspot group. Again, there are the fields. The main leading field appears to be North Pole, shown in green. There's the intensitygram, and here's the 131 angstroms 48-hour SDO video. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. Welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Visit smAsho.org. And since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back, and that covidiously absent from your locale, multiverse, universe, solar system, spaceship, galaxy, plane of existence, etc. By the way, SMASH viewers, worry not. The SMASH studio is not really on fire, and I can put it out at any time. See you next time. And happy autumn. We may live stream at the time of the equinox. Stay tuned.